So continuing on, we're going to look at, and I feel like we kind of have to review these in conjunction based on some things we've said offline. Providence and St. John's are the next two teams on the docket. If correct me if I'm wrong, I think Providence was put higher in the coaches' preseason picks. I don't have that.
Not sure.
I remember the only quarrel some people had was that either Providence was too high or St. John's was too low. So you've already made it clear you've got St. John's in third.
I do.
So talk to me about what you like about the Johnnies. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
I see a man on the sidelines who I think, at worst, is the second best coach in basketball. At worst, if you want to say he's the best, I can get there. Just to quantify how good Pitino has been, his 2008 to 2017 at Louisville, here's where his defense is ranked in all of the country in KenPom. 4th, 2nd, 78th, 3rd, 1st, 5th, 4th, 2nd, 8th. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely... He had 1 year outside of the top 10. That's ridiculous. You look at what he did at Iona. They got better every year. They were, again, up on a UConn team at halftime that had and that Iona team was down 2 starters. Like, there are people who think they were a letdown last year. They won the MAC by 4 games. Like, they lost 2 starters for the year.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous that they even hung with them for a half. Like, he's the best coach in college basketball. Yeah, again, it's him herself, I think. You look at the roster, like, there are good players here. Like, Soriano would start on any team in the Big East. Like, he's, I think, a first-team all-conference guy. And if not, it's only because center is such a strength in this league. Like, Aline played legit minutes for UConn last year. Dingle, like, good player Dingle had a great year in the Ivy. Yeah, averaging over 23 a game.
Right.
Like, Ledlum was a good player at Harvard, correct?
Yeah, he was at Harvard, 19 a game.
Yeah, averaged 19 and 8. Like, I understand there's a step up in competition. Like, this is a good team here. And, like, if you, like, again, I picked St. John's over UConn. St. John's beat them last year. Like,
yeah, but I mean, like, it's some of it's just the randomness of a season when that happened. It's one player from that St. John's team last year.
And the biggest thing we're not talking about, no Andre Curbelo.
No Andre Curbelo, and bigger than that is no Mike Anderson.
Yeah.
No guy has maybe ever had a like lower ceiling than Mike Anderson. Like, you knew exactly what you were going to get out of those St. John's teams that he had.
Yeah, there was a 0% chance they were ever going to be good.
No, like Sweet 16, out of the question.
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, like, round of 32 even, I don't think they made it while he was there.
I don't think they made it out of the play, did they?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember how long he's been there, because Mullen wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But either way, right? Like, last 4 or 5 years, St. John's teams, even the ones that were okay, like, you think, like, they had, like, the LJ Figueroa and Shamori Pons team, like, even that one, ceiling, right? Like, capped. Their range was capped. They could only go so far.
Mike Anderson never made the tournament at St. John's. By the way. Best KenPom finished 55th in 2022.
Yeah, that's called a low ceiling. Because if you can't recruit at St. John's, you shouldn't be coaching in college basketball, right? Like, I know it's not the same as it used to be. You're still in New York. You still play home games at the Garden, right? Like, at the end of the day, that shouldn't be that hard to sell people on.
Like, this might be high. Like, there absolutely are questions. Like, you have probably 2 guys in Soriano and Aline who were, like, high major contributors last year, and Aline was in a relatively small role. He still averaged like 18 minutes a game.
18, yeah. 5 points, 1 assist.
Yeah, but, like, these guys have talent, and, like, I just think Pitino's going to figure it out. Like, there's, like, Soriano's good enough on defense. Like, he's going to get these guys to guard. Like, is it going to be a top 10 defense? Like, probably not. But, like, they're going to be good defensively. Like, I think just on scheme alone, like, they'll beat UConn once. I'll bet anything on that.
Okay.
I'll bet anything that they'll beat UConn once.
Because my stance has softened since we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
I don't have Providence finishing above them anymore.
Okay. Also, real quick, the pace loss. Soriano didn't play. Half the starters didn't play. It's not great. Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Well, and I wanted, because I previewed this in a tweet, so I wanted to talk about it. If a February stretch game with everybody healthy is a 100% good indicator of how good a team is, secret scrimmage, what percent are you giving it?
I think it depends. Like, I think the St. John's losing to pace, like Soriano not playing, other starters not playing. Like, I think that's in St. John's. I think shot like 25% from the field. This is going to be a bad shooting team. Like, again, I'm solely banking on if this defense ranks outside the top 75. Like, I'm in trouble.
If they rank outside the top 50, I think you're in trouble.
Yeah, probably. But I think something like that, I don't put a ton of stock in. Now, Louisville losing to Kentucky Wesleyan, like, that's something you put stock in, because that is guys playing uninspired, terrible offense, no rebounding. Like, that's what Louisville is. Like,
yeah.
I think it's different. Like, I think you put different amounts into every, like, secret scrimmage. Like,
well, honestly, like, have you seen a secret scrimmage result yet that you didn't think is opposite of what you would expect, right? Like, Michigan beat Marquette. Like, there have been other ones where I look at them, I'm like, I just feel like they're all coming in like that isn't what I would expect to happen. But does it actually mean anything? Like, no, right? The obvious answer is no. As long as the game doesn't count, it literally doesn't mean anything. But if it tells you anything, it tells on how ready your depth is from go, right?
Probably.
So yeah, I think that is a worry for this St. John's team. I don't think they have no depth, right? Like, I think Aline figures to come off the bench, maybe, depending on how it shakes out.
Projected starting lineup is Dennis Jenkins, who's
Dingle.
a transfer from Iona. He's like the one Iona guy. Dingle, RJ Luis from UMass.
Luis is going to start?
I'm looking at the almanac right now, which they have him listed in there. They probably need a second forward. Second forward. If they want to start a lead, they'll probably go 3 guards.
Well, Ledlam can play 4.
He's 6'6". That's a small 4.
Yeah, but he rebounds well. 8 rebounds last year. I don't know. Like, because I look at it, I did more digging on the numbers. I do like either Luis or Aline coming off the bench. I think either of them is fine. Glenn Taylor Jr. worries me a little bit.
And like being pro or anti?
Anti.
Yeah,
like I don't think he's a big help.
Okay.
Ledlam, same kind of deal with him. So I watched a little of his footage. Like, the way he scores, I don't think it's going to come as easy in the Big East. And he shot 29% from 3. Right? So, like, I don't think his gimmies are there this year. I think he's going to have trouble scoring. This is not a team that's going to shoot the 3 well.
Probably not.
Their best shooter will be probably Dennis Jenkins, and he was 36%. Dingle was 35.5%. Soriano's never attempted a 3.
Yeah, the shooting is not going to be good. You're banking on the defense, and you're banking. Again, I'm picking them 3rd in conference. Like, if you tell me they're going to drop like 5 non-conference games, like, that doesn't shock me. Like,
their slate is pretty bad. That would be a shock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Then I guess that would be a trouble.
Torvik has them losing 2 non-cons,
okay.
and that's with picking them. And that's with having them 53rd overall.
Yeah, no, this pick for me is solely off of like Jordan Dingle is talented, Chris Ledlam is talented, Joel Soriano is obviously very good. Like, there's talent here. I see Rick Pitino on the sidelines. I'm gonna close my eyes and pick him 3rd.
Well, okay, so
and picking him 5th and 6th and just going chalk isn't fun. Like,
I know, and that's I kind of want it, and I think picking UConn 1 has actually turned out to kind of be a like counterculture pick or whatever. But I wanted to, like, I don't know, come up with something. But at the end of the day, I think this is a 4th or 5th best team in the conference, maybe 6th, right? But here's my issue. Here's the biggest issue I have. So Iona was 27-8, playing injured most of the year. That's not that bad, right? But that's in the 5th worst conference. Yeah, it's in the 5th worst conference in college basketball. Yeah. Penn was 17-13. Harvard was 14-14. Oregon State was 11-21. UMass was 15-16. So these guys that he's pulled in, they have talent. They were also on bad teams.
Yeah.
And at some point you go like, all right, how much of the blame do they get? Dennis Jenkins, He figures to be the starting point guard. He had a 91 O rating in his top 100 games and 79 in his top 50. Dingle was 104 in his top 100 games, 95 in his top 50s. And remember, like the top 50s, each of them had like 2 or 3. Glenn Taylor, pretty much like an 86 in top 100. He had a 90 in 21 top 100 games and an 85 in 11 against top 50. Ledlam was a 75 in his top 50 games. Soriano was he was a 121 in top 50. He was actually better against good competition, right? Like that confirms the eye test. He is a great player.
Yeah.
And Luis was a 48.3 in his 2 top 50 games.
Bad at UMass is a fucking train wreck.
Yeah, so I worry that these guys were not on great teams and they were not playing well against good competition.
That's a fair point. I would say my one counterpoint is they aren't on great teams against good competition. It's usually a good coach, good athletes. You can scheme and take one guy away.
For sure.
Every game Penn played, like, Dingle was focus 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I completely understand, like, where the skepticism... It is solely Rick Pitino's on the sidelines for me.
Yeah, and again, it's becoming a theme here where it's just how much do we think the coaches matter?
Yeah.
And you clearly...
I think they matter a lot.
More than I do.
Yeah, I think they matter a lot. And, this might not be the year. Like, it took him, Iona got progressively better. Like, Louisville got better under him. Like, this might not be the year. Like, assuming he's still with it, mentally, physically healthy, like, if this team isn't competing for Big East title by year 3, I'll be shocked.
I agree. No, I agree. And because this is his end of the line, right? He is too old to go anywhere else.
Louisville might open up.
I mean, do you really, he's going to be 80 next year? He's, 78?
I don't think he's that old. I would have guessed 70 flat.
I thought he's pretty old. I thought he's, shockingly old.
I don't think he's that old.
In the way, you don't realize Nick Saban is, 70 old.
He's 71.
Oh, okay, that's way less than I thought, to be fair.
I was going to guess 70 flat.
All right, I'll take the idiot stamp on that one. But, are you really getting up and moving back to Louisville at 72, 73?
No, that's not. It just would be very funny.
He's got 5 years here probably to do something cool.
If they brought him back.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about
real quick on St. John's. Can we get a little? Be careful what you wish for. They fired Steve Lavin after a 54th and 50th KenPom finish. They then hired Chris Mullen, who finished 211th off of a 21-12 season.
That was a bad team.
Yeah.
He recruited Posh Alexander, though, who made sure that team stayed mediocre for the next 4 years. Providence. Let's talk about the Friars, because this is a team I keep going back and forth on.
This is all because of me, by the way. This is you caving to me on Providence.
It is. Well, I finally did the research.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at the roster and I say, it's not that bad. It has some potential. And again, I don't care about the coaching quite as much as you do. So I think they could overcome an inexperienced and, dare I say, just not that good or not proven at all coach yet.
Yeah. So it is becoming clear, I care about the coach a lot more. I think if you give Pitino this Providence roster, I'd pick him first in the Big East. This is a good roster.
Really? I think it's good. I don't think it's that good.
It's a good roster. I mean, Hopkins is a good piece. I think the George Mason transfers he brought over are fine.
He got the right ones for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess first maybe a stretch. I don't know. I love Rick Pitino. But I think with Kim English, he's done nothing.
Yeah.
What is? And so full disclosure, I'm a big 3-Man Weave fan. I think one of them at least is a Mizzou alum. Went to school with Kim English. They hate Kim English. So a lot of my Kim English hate does come from them. To back it up, what is the best thing Kim English has done? In 2 years at George Mason, which is not a nothing program, finish outside the top 100. He finished 5th in the worst A10 of all time. Congrats.
Yeah, but I mean that's also how much of a factor is the talent there.
They're a talented team.
They went 20-13 and finished 11-7 in the A10. That's not good.
The worst A10 of all time.
Yeah, but that's not if you do that in the Missouri Valley, everybody probably looks at you and goes oh, that's an interesting coaching prospect. I mean, right? How far is that off what D-Rock did in his first year at Drake? It's probably not that far away from that.
Probably not. I mean, they fell 40 spots from their preseason KenPom last year.
Yeah.
This team, again, you say 11 instead of the A10. The A10 was so bad last year. Like,
yeah, but say you play the top 4 teams and lose 6 of them, right? You lose. I mean, I didn't do that much digging into their schedule.
Let's see. Their conference losses were St. Bonaventure, St. Louis, who's fine, George Washington.
That's not a great one.
VCU, who, and to give it a little more, like, so they lost by 4 at St. Bonaventure, fine, 1 at St. Louis, fine, 3 at home to George Washington, that's bad. At VCU by 20, that's bad. Home to St. Joseph's, that's bad. At Loyola Chicago, that's bad.
That's awful.
And by 17 on the road against Duquesne, that is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't have to defend it and say, like, oh, he did a great coaching job there. I just don't think it's necessarily, like, it's a huge step up to the Big East, obviously. Especially when you talk about the coaching that's around the league right now. There is very much an established top, established middle, and an established bottom. And it's very clear who's the bottom right now. It's English, it's Stubblefield, and it's Shaw at this point.
And maybe Thad Matta.
Yeah, I mean, you give him enough credit for his past to put him in the middle.
But let's see.
I mean, the teams he's working with right now. Like,
Yeah.
the same thing. I think he maybe is a great coach, and Butler will do nothing this year no matter what.
Yeah. And Kim English is 2 years the head coach of George Mason. How many top 75 Ken Palm's team did they beat?
It may be one.
One. It was a 1-point win against number 45 Dayton at home.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, but yeah, we talk about the roster. The roster's a little confusing because having a hard time picking how they're going to line up opening day, you know? Like, I think the only true point guard on the roster is Jaden Pierre, who played, I think, 11 minutes last year. 3 points in 11 minutes, you know, like he's kind of a defensive, like any Providence player is kind of a good defender, so but they could play Carter at the point, I guess. They could play Corey Floyd's more of an off the ball guard.
Mount Rushmore of random transfers. Jared Biden to Stanford.
You'll see, I just thought he graduated.
No, he's at Stanford.
No kidding.
Yes, there's a.
Why? I mean, you're talking about an open point guard position, basically.
Well, that's why it's on the Mount Rush. Maybe he didn't want to make the tournament.
Wow.
He gets a scholarship for playing in 31 games, and he doesn't get another scholarship for playing in more.
You get to go live in Palo Alto for your senior year, I guess, but...
Ted Lasso's your coach.
Because English already said something that disturbs me. He was talking about looking at small ball lineups with Hopkins at the 5 this year. And I'm like, I want to ask him, like, you know, Duro's probably one of your best players this year, right? Like, I don't know if I'd be scheming to get him out of the lineup. He was very efficient at George Mason on, again, not a great team. 16 points and 8 boards in 29 minutes. Like, I would not be finding ways to get him out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And they have some big depth. Like Castro played 7 minutes as a freshman last year. Like, that's not a nothing piece. So again, I'm concerned he's already kind of scheming him out. I think they want to get either Floyd or Dual involved, I guess. Dual freshman.
Yeah.
Don't know much about him, but I've heard good things from Providence Twitter.
Is he gonna be point guard, or is that gonna be Ticket Gaines, which all-time name? No, it's not gonna be Gaines. It'd either be Carter or Dual, and I'd assume it's Dual.
Or
right?
Pierre. That's what I'm wondering. The point guard is the big question for Providence. I really don't know what they're going to do there.
I mean, yeah, if your point guard options are a guy who played 11 minutes a game last year, or a freshman point guard, I don't love that for a coach.
Well, and I'm not positive Dual is a point guard either. He's 6'5", I think. I don't know. I really don't know enough about him. Carter, I think, is one of the most overrated players in the conference. Like, so that's the thing. Like, I kept saying, like, I like this Providence roster while actually disliking, like, a good portion of it.
Yeah.
I really don't think Carter's anything special. He was their highest rated offensive returner last year, 110. Hopkins was 109. That's probably just a lot of the volume of shots he takes.
How was Carter their highest? Like, I'm not questioning. He shot 42% from the field and 30% from 3.
Yeah. Hopkins was 45 and 36 respectively. So, yeah, I don't know how that shakes out. It looks like Gaines will probably start as the 4. They've got him as a stretch 4 on Torvik.
Seemed like Hopkins would be the 4, wouldn't
Either way, like
Oh,
at least
okay.
Hopkins, I think,
Okay.
can step out a little bit more. The Gaines shot 38% from the field, 7 points in 27 minutes. Good rebounder, though.
Yeah.
So, again, it'll be interesting to see how they piece a roster together out of this. They lost Croswell last year, was their highest-rated player at 122. No one else on the team was over 112 last year.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about a roster that has shooting questions. Like, this... A Providence St. John's, like, first round Big East tournament game at, like, noon has
50 to
absolute
47,
potential to just be disgusting. Like,
Yeah.
one of these games better be on, like it better be on, like, a Sunday morning at, like, 11. Like, that better be one of these.
Jaden Pierre did shoot 55% on limited attempts from 3 last year, so maybe he does have that in him if he plays the point. I like Oduro. I think he's a piece. The question is if it translates.
They just kind of fit together weird. Like, the pieces just don't really fit, like you
Yeah.
said. Like, Oduro is fine again. He put up good numbers in a terrible A10. Hopkins is good. Like, again, different coach. Yeah, looking at this roster, yeah, if Pitino was coaching this team, I would not pick him first. That was a bad take. I pick him higher than, like, 7th? I think I have him 7th.
You have him 7. I have him.
Up to
I have him
me.
6th still. I think. This is so. The one thing I will give them too that I think this is their path to victory and this is their path to big victories this year. They're going to force a lot of teams to be one and done.
Yeah, they can.
They're starting 3 guys who had 6 or more rebounds per game last year. Like, that's not nothing. So if they can play deep, force tough shots, and then grab rebounds, they'll at least be in games.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a team that's going to probably get blown out too often, I guess. I don't know.
Coach is very good.
Coach is not very good. We certainly assume.
Do you want to prop bet Providence for St. John's?
No, last
by
week.
your
I think I was
takes.
prepared.
Sleep by your takes.
I'm perfectly willing to research and change my mind.
Boo, dig.
We'll see. I mean, I absolutely believe St. John's isn't going to be 3rd in the conference. Like if you offered me 3rd versus 5th and null is, and if they come 4th, it's a null bet. I would take that.
Yeah, we'll discuss terms later.
I would maybe even consider giving you 3rd and 4th, and I get 5th or lower.
Okay.
But I'd want like 120 on that maybe.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure a line out offline perhaps.
Sense.
So kind of the last 2 interesting teams that we can really talk about. I mean, I guess Georgetown's kind of interesting, but Xavier, boy, snake bitten. You know, like
Yeah.
I really would have liked to, as a Big East fan, I would have liked to see this team with Hunter and Fremantle. I don't know what they're gonna do to salvage this.
No, this is going to be I mean, if Sean Miller gets this team to the tournament, how long is Fremantle?
So
what's the word on those guys
Hunter's done.
for the year?
Fremantle, they gave him a shot to come back in February, and I read something the other week that said he's probably out for the year. So you say maybe you get him back like last 3 weeks of the season.
Real quick, this can't be right. This said he shot 63% from 3. Fremantle?
He did not take many.
Okay.
Yeah. Of the 2, Nunji shot way more threes than
Okay.
Fremantle.
Yeah, I mean, if Sean Miller gets this team to the tournament, like, Big East Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Like,
Without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know if that'll actually happen because usually the voting doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's not the worst roster in the conference because,
No.
I mean, we'll get to that, but they got, I mean, it's going to be almost all freshmen off the bench, and it's going to be basically like the Conference USA all-second team
Yeah.
playing for
And
him.
to be fair to that, like, McKnight put up 16.5 last year to Western Kentucky, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Olivari put up 8 or 19 at Rice. Like, those are good numbers, good pieces. Like, no one would have thought Sule Boom was going to be like first team All Big East coming over from UTEP.
Right.
Like, he's done it before with Conference USA guards. Like, maybe he can do it again, but like, if you're banking your season on like my 2 good Conference USA guards that I got are gonna lead me to 12-8 in the Big East, like,
Right.
I think Sean Miller's a very good coach, so I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but like, take the other side of that bet.
Yeah, I mean, I look at McKnight, right? Like, he was 16 a game on 45 from the field, 34% from three. He was a 101 rating, but 85 against top 100 opponents. Olivari, I think he's their best piece. He was a 102 rating, but 106 against top 100 teams while averaging 19 a game, 36% from three. He's a guy I'd like to see under Miller. I think he'll be interesting piece. Also grabbed 6 boards. Both of the guards can rebound a little bit, which is nice. The question for Xavier, though, is going to be Claude and Kraft, who figure to be the 3 and 4. They both played. Claude played 21 minutes as a freshman, but only averaged 5 points a game. Kraft played 7 minutes, 3 points a game. They need a sophomore jump out of one of those.
Yeah, funny enough, Almanac does not have Kraft starting.
Who do they have?
They have Getis Nemaiska? Not saying that right.
I got nothing on him.
Yeah, he's a 6'7" freshman, and then Abu Usman.
Usman will play
6'10" forward.
Center, yeah.
From where did he transfer? North Texas. He'll defend.
Yeah, he was pretty effective in limited minutes for them. He's a good rim protector.
Yeah, 11 and 6 in 24 minutes.
Yeah, if he can stay on the floor. I'm looking at him as maybe being a guy who gets overtaken mid-year if they're not really getting the results they need. Kachi Enzi was a Jays target freshman there. I really like him. I think he's got game on both sides of the ball. I would not be surprised if he is starting at the 5 by the end of the year.
Yeah. Looking at this, like, the more I look at this roster, like, again, can we go to this roster? Absolutely not. Like, I can see how they can finish 5th and, like,
Yeah.
the 10th seed.
Yeah.
Like, I respect Sean Miller a lot. Like, I think I can see how they get there.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If Olivari and McKnight both play 9 points a game basketball, right? Like, you need more out of one of them. But if that's your baseline, and Claude, because Claude is the guy who I think is probably the leading candidate for preseason most improved player, right? Like, he was pretty bad last year. He was an 89 rating on a good offensive team, which is really bad. 29% from three, but he's got that build. He's kind of got that pedigree where it looks like he's on the verge of the sophomore breakout, but they gotta have it because if he isn't, then this could be a bad team.
Yep.
I mean, you could tell there was kind of a noticeable drop-off last year when you took Jones and Kunkel out of the game. So you're basically replacing, Colby Jones with Claude. If he's not, last year he wasn't half of Jones. He's got to be at least, 67% of that production.
Yeah. You wish they had, like, one guy to space, like a Kunkel was, like, to space the floor. But, like, again, like, it's not even a Xavier fan, but I hate to see guys get hurt. Like, it sucks to see injuries. Like, and if you're that guy on Twitter who just said what I said, like, fuck you. But, like, it sucks, like, to see guys get hurt. Like, this is a fun roster. See what Sean Miller can do. It sucks. It is what it is.
Well, and I wanted Xavier to. I kind of want Xavier to be up there at the top of the conference right now. I think it increases the likelihood that Miller stays.
Yeah.
And it's a take I've had before. I said if he stays for 5 years, he's going to get a Final Four team in there somewhere.
Wouldn't surprise me. He had a couple of good defenses at Arizona. His last year's team was not great defensively, but that might have just been personnel in year one.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I like the recruiting he did this year. I think if he stays till these guys are seniors, I think they could maybe pop one out of there.
Assuming they don't meet Wisconsin.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. So Seton Hall, this is the team for me that I had the hardest time with. Because
really? That's funny you say that because I was just about to say this is the team with the narrowest range of outcomes to me.
It is, but I want to put this team 5th. I don't know what I put him 8th, right? Like I couldn't get there. I don't love Shaw as a coach at all.
I don't either.
I think it was one of those games where either he was mic'd up or he was like had a camera on him on the side. He just looked confused during the game. Like he looked like everything was happening too fast and he didn't understand. And I don't know. He in his press conference, he just always seems like he's not quite there with the team and with what he needs. Because I look at the roster and I say it's not a bad roster. At least the 4 of the starting 5, I look at it and I go yeah, okay. I think you put that on another team, on another roster, and they look pretty good. Dawes at point guard, 32 minutes, 13 points, shot 39% from three. Good free throw shooter. Kaderi Richmond, very few attempts, but shot 45 or 44% from three, 10 points in 28 minutes. Dre Davis is the one I'm interested in. Played off the bench last year as kind of a super sub. 10 points in 19 minutes, shooting 52% from the field, 41% from three. Yep. He's a senior, so he's a late bloomer, but I really like him in that 4 spot this year. I think he'll play around the arc. He'll stretch some defenses a little bit. I don't know. I look at it, and they added Adewusu, who, when he was like a freshman, sophomore, I think he was maybe one of the worst starters in the Big East, but has quietly turned into a competent player.
Yeah, he was fine last
Yeah,
year.
he all of a sudden started shooting 36% from three, too. So I look at it, I'm like, those 4 guys should be able to put up points on most teams.
Yeah. One interesting note on Richmond, you mentioned 44% from three. 42% from the field overall.
Yeah.
Dawes 38% from three, 39% from the field overall. Like, that tells me Holloway's not running great offense. Like,
right.
And that's a lot of you get with 5 seconds in the shot clock and like put something up.
Yeah.
Like, those are bad. Like, you're getting bad looks. And again, I am aligned with you on Holloway. Like, I don't think he's a great coach. Like, you want to talk about like tournament fluke runs, and we might get into this in the next one, but like, Shaheen Holloway's not the coach of Seton Hall if Kentucky scores one more. Like, if Doug Eder misses the 3 with 45 seconds left in regulation, like,
right.
Shaheen Holloway's not coaching here against Kentucky.
No.
Like, it's he does deserve credit for that tournament run, but like, I don't know. I don't think I think, like you mentioned, he's certainly the lower tier of Big East coaches. There's fine pieces here. They're gonna defend. Like, they're gonna be sound on defense. They're gonna get into a couple rock fights. Like, they're probably going to clip one of the top couple teams at home in a night where they just can't shoot.
Yep.
But, like, I have them 8th. Like, I don't see how they finish worse than 8th, and I don't see how they finish higher than 6th.
Yeah, and that's probably the true ceiling. I like Davis. I like Dawes. They are, I would say, yes, part of it is coaching, and the sets they're running aren't great, because I think that's true. I think they were very stagnant in a lot of games last year. Part of it's also, I think they're poor decision makers with the ball.
Yeah.
I don't have their turnover numbers here, but I'm going to wager they weren't very good. Yeah. The bench concerns me, and we haven't even talked about their big yet. It was pretty much an average.
Hutchins Everett?
No, I got Bediako starting. I think he did in the scrimmage.
They have Everett starting, but yeah, I mean...
Either way,
put up average numbers in the
I was going to say they're both.
Everett put up average numbers in the OBC.
Precise. I was going to say, like, both average mid-major bigs that do not impress me in the slightest.
The OBC was also terrible last year.
Yeah. And besides that, like, nothing to report on the bench. So if they lose even one of those starters, I think their floor suddenly becomes 9th or 10th.
Yeah, I think. The only one thing I'd say in favor of Holloway is, like, it is year 2 in the system, like, year 2 in the culture, like, more time to get guys what they expect. Like, I don't think that's nothing. But I think, like, the offense is so limited, they get bad looks. Like, this is a team. I think this is a team that's just going to get spanked a couple times on the road. Like,
agreed.
If this team plays Pfizer on like a Saturday, or plays at Pfizer for Marquette on a Saturday, like, that has the potential to be like an 80 to 50 game.
Well, I think we did the same thing.
We did.
Last year,
we did do that. Yeah,
and I don't see any reason why that would be different this year. Like, you say Tyrese Samuel was probably their only, like, truly interesting player that you maybe had to scheme around last year. Yeah. Richmond, like, he did this, I think it was 2 years ago, if he's been there that long, to Nemhard, where he plays the point sometimes and would just kind of switch on to the right guy. He's a 6'6" guard, and he'd just back him down and draw fouls or score, and then they just kind of stopped doing that. Yeah. So I'd be interested to see if they return to that to get some offense this year. But, yeah, I don't love it. Not versatile. They don't really look like they have options off the bench. Yeah. We'll see. If they do finish better than 7th, I think I'll be impressed. And I would think that would indicate a pretty decent coaching job.
Probably. I don't know. It's tough to say. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get through these last 3 kind of quickly so we can get to our predictions. Georgetown, the metrics hate them.
Their roster's awful.
It's bad. I don't think it's quite as bad as you do, but it's bad. Jay Heath is a pretty known commodity in the Big East at this point. He'll take a lot of shots. He'll make some of them. Not going to kill you. Epps from Illinois is probably their most interesting piece. He went for 45 in their scrimmage, apparently. Yeah, you're never going to play that well again, I would assume.
I think, is Epps kind of a locker room cancer?
That's based on what I heard from...
Is that Clark?
I don't know. Based on what I heard... They did. Based on what I heard from the Illinois fans, they were pretty much in agreement that he should transfer.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's buyer's remorse on their part now. He wasn't awful last year by any stretch for a freshman. 9.5 points in 24 minutes, shot 41% from the field. Dontrez Styles from North Carolina figures to be their 3, I think. He's nothing based on... He played 6 minutes. I got nothing there. Masood from Kansas State's kind of an interesting piece because he played pretty well in limited minutes and played pretty well down the stretch.
Was that him with the big shot in one of the tournament games, or was that Tomlin?
Oh, I think it was him.
Masood,
yeah,
which is kind of weird. He was on the court for that.
Like 42% 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
90% free throw. I can't imagine he shot a lot of free throws.
Yeah, or threes since he was 39% from the field.
Yeah. And then I like the big Supreme Cook out of Fairfield. He was very efficient on a very bad team, which I mean he averaged 13 points and 9 boards in 26 minutes, 110 offensive rating, 126 against top 100 opponents.
So we like a good player from the MAC.
Yeah, I look at him and I'm like, okay, there's something there. This isn't the worst Georgetown team, certainly by any stretch of the imagination.
I think talent-wise it is.
I mean, Epps has some. Styles should have some. And they've got some interesting freshmen too.
Roll the ball out, no coaches. Last year's team versus this year's team. What's the spread?
I give this year's team -4.5.
Oh, I would take last year's team -6.
Really?
Yeah, I think Brandon Murray's so much better than anyone on this team.
Yeah, I mean, you forget they did have pieces last year. Primo Spears
was fine, kind of a chuck. Brandon Murray, Kudus Wahab, I would take all 3 of those guys.
Well, Wahab had his worst season last year, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I still think I'd take all 3 of those guys over anyone on this team.
That's probably true. I don't know. I don't hate the talent. Epps definitely has some. They have no returning production on the bench. Like Wayne Bristol, I feel like he's been there for 6 years, even though he's a junior, and I don't think has ever contributed. Same for Ryan Mutombo. I remember hearing 4 years ago he was going there. I'm like, oh no. Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah, that clearly didn't matter. I have a take. Are we sure Ed Cooley's that good of a coach?
No.
That sort of seemed like a desperation. And, to be abundantly clear, he is a massive, massive, massive upgrade over Patrick Ewing.
Oh, it's not even in the same ballpark.
When I said roll the ball out and play, I think that also gives an advantage to last year. I think nothing is better than Patrick Ewing.
Well, I think Patrick Ewing basically is roll the ball out there. I don't think he was doing a whole lot of coaching.
He did provide the great clip of the, have you ever taken that shot?
Do you work on that shot?
Do you work on that shot? That's
You know how many, middle school coaches felt, so validated by that and seeing that? Yeah. There's a guy from the 80s yelling at kids about taking fucked up shots. That's my guy.
Are we...
But I think Cooley is a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach.
Say he's in the 20 to 30 range.
Yeah, I could agree to that.
And Providence, it's Georgetown has more resources than Providence. Don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible to win at Providence.
No,
Patino did it.
Yeah,
he had a good run at Providence, but their highest KenPom finish was 27th. They made the second weekend once.
Because he's been there for
He was hired in 2012.
Yeah, I was going to say, he had some of those teams with, Bryce Cotton and Chris Dunn, right?
Chris Dunn, yeah. Chris Dunn was the 3rd overall pick.
And he's got, one Sweet 16?
Yeah, one. He made the second weekend once.
Yeah, you got to do better than that, I think.
think he'd accidentally do better than that. Like,
Yeah. Now, it's clear he had a style, and that style very much gave him a floor, I think, that was higher than a floor at Providence probably should be. Because, like, we'll get to this on a future pod. Like, I'm afraid of our floor when Mac leaves.
Okay.
More afraid than I would be maybe for a school like Providence. I don't know. We'll talk to that. We'll talk to that on a future pod. I want to do one where we talk about our future coaching options because I think that's been a popular topic in the past couple off seasons. So we move on to Butler, and of their 12-minute loggers last year, they've got 2 returners. One of them's a walk-on, and the other one scored 7 points a game last year.
They had a walk-on, average 12 minutes a game.
Yep, they did.
How'd they feel?
Well, I don't know if it's Connor Turnbull. He might be on a scholarship now, but he wasn't, I don't think, his freshman year. Yeah,
This team sucks.
this team's so bad. And like, again, if they're not, then Thad Matta must be a good coach because there's one guy on this team who I look at and I'm like, okay, that's maybe a Big East player, and he's a transfer from UC Irvine.
Who's that?
DJ Davis. He's a shooter. 40 from the field, 40 from 3. I think he took like all of his attempts from 3, basically.
Yeah.
Because that's I like. He's going to need help. He's not going to be able to score on his own, and they don't have help on this team. Like Posh Alexander is not going to like. He 4 assists last year isn't terrible, but you do not think of him as a pass first point guard.
No. Talk about again Mount Rushmore of random transfers. Like Posh Alexander going to Butler was just kind of like, all right, like.
Oh, it's. I mean, I think it was clear enough. Patino did not want him.
Yeah, I don't think Patino wanted him. It's like when you're running like a franchise in year 3, like, oh, Juan Soto's on the Mariners. So you're like, all right. Like, Posh.
You just compared Posh Alexander to Juan Soto.
It's like, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. It's just gross to hear that. The rest of this team, though, Jamil Telfort will play their 4. He was decent at Northeastern, but struggled against good competition. Posted an 82 in their top 100 games. Pierre Brooks was very limited at Michigan State. He didn't score in the last 8 games down the stretch. Jalen Thomas has been at Butler, I think, for a couple of years now. He's pretty much a 0 at best. Nothing really appealing off the bench.
Yeah, to give Mata some credit, losing Manny Bates last year killed that team. Like that was the guy that you had just kind of slotted in, like as their kind of a poor man's club, like not that poor. Like Manny Bates was really damn good at NC State before. Like I think that's the guy you just kind of slotted in and assumed was going to be one of your guys, and he missed the start of the season. He had a couple injuries around. I mean, losing Chuck Harris, that's a pro. You lose Chuck Harris and Eric Hunter, that's good for them. I don't know. The roster sucks. Like, super low ceiling. Like, probably won't finish last because DePaul exists. But.
Yeah, there's like that's the conclusion I got to is there's just enough for it not to be DePaul. And there was like a little trend on Big East Twitter for a couple of weeks of people like putting them like 7th or 8th in their.
I saw that one guy pick him 6th. He had him 7th and he had Creighton 6th. And everyone was all pissed about Creighton 6th. Like, DePaul at 7's a lot more offensive.
Butler at 7,
Butler at 7's a lot more offensive.
Because I just look at this, I'm like, where are you getting your points from?
Yeah.
You know, like, they're not there. Maybe you got, like, this Finley Bizjack. Like, hey, maybe he's, like, a Lukosius and scores, like, 12 points a game or something and kind of explodes his freshman year. Even still. I mean, Brooks is a sophomore, so he's got talent, and if he ever puts it together, maybe he could be a explosive player, but I just don't see how you get there this year.
Yeah, I would agree. Unfortunately, like, Butler being scrappy is fun. Like,
yeah.
But they're not going to be scrappy, I don't
Well, they'll play a little bit of defense. I mean, Ken Pom has them 84th in defense, so, like, yeah, you'll beat a team or two that you shouldn't. You'll take a game off of like Providence at home, maybe you surprise like.
Wouldn't surprise me if they beat us at home.
No, I mean it never would. That's the problem. Like,
they beat Xavier last year.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll get a couple of wins. I think I picked them to go. I think 4 or 5 wins in conference. Like they won't be that bad.
The home loss to bust my Butler over. Home loss to Georgetown to bust my Butler over 6.5 wins. House killer.
Wow. All right, so we get to DePaul. 5 of their top 6 scorers departed from a team that was second to last in the Big East. Second to last. They were last, or they were 10th because they played Seton Hall at the Garden and beat them.
Yeah, I think Georgetown finished last.
Yeah. This is not the worst DePaul team I've ever seen, but they're not going to win a whole lot of games this year.
Well, Elijah Fisher, former 5-star recruit, I think.
They got...
Or is that Caleb Murphy? No, Caleb Murphy sucks. He was on the team. I think Elijah Fisher, former 5-star recruit. I don't know what you're going to do with that information, but...
Yeah,
good for him. 5-star DePaul.
Jalen Terry. I didn't realize he only averaged 6 points last year. I keep remembering the game. I think it was 2 years ago at the Chi where he put up like 25.
Yeah.
So I keep having that in the back of my head that he's a decent player and he scored 6 points in 20 minutes. Apparently not. Chico Carter coming over from South Carolina. I want to ask you about this. Am I missing something? This guy doesn't suck. Why is he going to DePaul as a senior?
He wasn't great last year. I don't know. He wasn't great last year.
48% from 3.
Yeah.
110 O rating. Like I looked at this guy. I'm like, how the hell did he end up here?
It's kind of random. I don't know. This guy.
He must be. I don't know if he's local or something. He can really shoot it. They've got an option there. Jeremiah Oden from Wyoming figures to get some minutes at the 4 or 5. If they play him and Deshaun Nelson together, it might get some matchup problems because they're both kind of mobile bigs. Oden's a little roster. Huh?
I'm starting to warm up to this roster.
It's like I said, it's not the worst DePaul roster. If they finish ahead of Butler, it does not surprise me.
I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, there's some absolute goofballs. Not like if you end up at Butler, DePaul, like the 4 or 5-star, you're clearly not very good.
Well, and Caleb Murphy, 81 over last year in 21 minutes.
He doesn't need to see the floor.
No, but he will, because Stubbs plays everybody.
He will, yeah. And taking DePaul, or just being the head coach of DePaul, how frustrating is that? In the age of the portal, you can't build anything.
No.
DePaul's the projects where everyone's like, oh, he made it out of DePaul. David Jones, even his own teammates were patting him on the back, oh, good for you, you made it out.
Yeah.
That's to go to Mike Anderson.
Can't believe Carter's there. That's so weird to me. He's not the greatest player ever, but he played 30 minutes on a bad Power 5 team. I hate that phrase, but 10 a game and was a good shooter. I don't know how you get to DePaul. Good for him. Yeah. Good for him.
All right, so give me your rundown of official ranking, 1 through 11, your rankings.
So I got UConn first, 15-5. I also put us at 15-5, coming second. Marquette third, Nova fourth, both 14-6. St. John's fifth, 11-9. Providence and Xavier 10-10, 6-7. I also apparently gave Seton Hall 10-10 at 8th. I don't know.
You don't have any wins left.
No, I don't, because you get to Georgetown 6-14 in 9th place. I gave Butler 4 wins in 10th place, and DePaul 3 wins in 11th place.
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't do records. I did Marquette, Creighton, St. John's, Villanova, UConn, Xavier, Providence, Hall, Butler, Georgetown, DePaul. Yeah, at the top of that, there's some shakeups, sue me.
Yeah. All right, picks for player of the year. I kind of spoiled mine earlier, so it's Justin Moore. I think when he's at his best, he's a top 5 player in the country, and he's going to be the guy they're going to have to rely on this year, so I think that's a sneaky, easy pick.
Yeah, you know what, fuck it, I agree for my team. I'm going to go with Trey Alexander.
Yeah, well, I mean, he should be in that conversation, right?
Yeah.
The new role, I think, is good for him. He'll have the ball more. He'll get an opportunity to do what he does best more. So I like it. I think he's probably got the 4th best odds to do it.
Does he? There's a lot of guys I can see. I mean, the whole it's I think you can see kind of a lot of the first team.
Yeah.
The only one I'm looking at the Almanac's first team right now. I don't really see Bryce Hopkins winning it.
No.
Other than that, I can see the whole first team. I can see Trey and maybe Soriano.
Maybe. I mean, I believe I don't know how much more room he has to grow, but if he has some, Pitino will find it.
If St. John's finishes 3rd, it might be your team did really well and you were the best player.
Yeah. No, I could see that. Not the finishing 3rd part, but your logic. So defensive player of the year, I'm giving it to Kalk again. Voter fatigue will happen, and he probably won't win it, but he should.
I'll say Klingon because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I think we kind of agree with the logic on that one that, like, I don't need to beat this drum. Your coach knows that Ryan Kalkbrenner is the best player in the country. I don't need to be the one to tell you that. They say it every pregame, postgame, that they have to figure out how to get around him.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't need to defend it. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. Klingon can be good, and maybe he does average 4 blocks in 21 minutes or something like that. I still don't think that makes him the level of defender that Kalkbrenner is, where your entire defense depends on how good he is.
Yeah. Remember when you hated Kalkbrenner as a freshman, and I
did
to tell you how good he was?
Oh, yeah, did you? Did you really?
Yeah, for the listeners, we were not Kalkbrenner fans.
No, we did no. We could not get behind him at first, but boy, that freshman to sophomore leap, like, you wonder, right? You wonder. Sixth man of the year. You got anything for that?
Not really.
All right. Well, I'll go first if you figure something. I didn't pick one either. I said it's whoever doesn't start at Providence.
Okay.
Whichever of that Dual or maybe Floyd or I don't know, one of those guys that doesn't start sixth man. Because other than that, I don't really see an obvious candidate. Like UConn's sixth man will be Diarra, and he can't score to save his life. Marquette's will be maybe Sean Jones, who also doesn't score a whole lot. So I don't think there's an obvious candidate there. Maybe Armstrong at Nova.
Maybe so at Marquette. Who's their top projected?
I mean, if Trey Norman ends up playing big minutes, but I don't know. We'll see. Most improved player, I'm going with the consensus pick that it will be Claude, just because I think he's got so much room to go up from last year. Again, he was sneakily really bad last year on a good team, so he's got the most room to grow. That was my pick there.
Could Klingon have a shot at winning? Like, again, like, is that going to be, like, I guess I don't know, like, if he is what people say he's going to be, like, I think it should be him by name. But.
Well, can you say it's most improved if he just lives up to his per 40 numbers?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure the voters will think of it that way, but
whatever.
Freshman of the year, Castle.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen enough on him. I think he is that good. I gave Neptune Coach of the Year. I think if he gets to 14 and 6 at Nova, he's going to win it.
Slick Rick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly if they finish better than 5th, he'll probably win it. Do you want to do first team?
We can. I mean, go ahead.
I think we're going to have mostly the same guys. So I have Kalkbrenner and Trey.
Okay.
Bryce Hopkins, Soriano, and I gave it to Cam Jones. I think he'll be more of the star for Marquette this year. Like I said, I think Kolek maybe takes a little bit of a step back, but they don't really hurt too much from it. I don't know if he'll have quite as good of a year as he did last year.
So you don't have Kolek on the first team at all?
Correct.
I'm going to put him there just because I think it's, again, it's just one of those things, like, I think people already have it penciled in and are going to go through the effort change. I mean, I'll take Kolek more, Kalkbrenner. I'll put Klingon on there. I guess I have to put Trey since I said player of the year.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'll get Klingon off there. Soriano.
Yeah. I have Klingon and Caravan on my second team. I really like Caravan. I think he'll get his flowers this year, probably because Hurley will scream about it until he does, and apparently that works. I put Kolek on the second team. Like I said, I think it'll be just a little bit worse this year. Dixon and Iguodaro are my other two.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Hopkins down there. I'll throw Klingon.
And I get, like, honestly, I think there's still, like, 9 guys who you could consider, like Shireman, Olivari could, if he's Xavier's best player, he'll probably make second team. Castle, maybe, Dingle, Bamba, Newton, Ashworth, Spencer. Like, those are all guys that could get there.
Did Ryan Demhart leave because he was too worried about how crowded the Big East teams could be?
Yeah, that's what his mom said. That's what his mom said. He's guaranteed to be first team All West Coast Conference.
When the going gets tough, run to a team that puts 10 guys on their first All Conference team.
Yeah. All right, and then Big East tournament champion.
Marquette again.
I give it to us. I think we finally get that monkey off our back just to lose around
Oh,
the 32 game.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Like, that's what's going to happen, right?
We're playing narrative ball. Yeah, that's not a bad call.
I gave UConn a 2 seed, us and Marquette a 3, Nova a 5, St. John's a 9. I put Providence and Dayton and sent Xavier and Hall to the NIT.
All right, I'll go Marquette and Creighton get 3s. St. John's gets a 6. Nova gets a 6. UConn gets a 7.
Okay.
With Xavier and Dayton.
Okay. All right, we got one more mailbag question before we call it an episode. So thank you to Mark French, of course, friend of the program. He asks the ideal viewing experience for each games, and this is kind of a 2-part question. So for home games, the number of King cans that you should be consuming for each type of home game, and then the place and the situation you want to watch each kind of away game. So my take, home non-conference games, you should be planning for 3 cans with the option to go to 10 if it's a close game down the stretch.
That's a lot of money. I don't drink beer.
I know. So I might have to lead this question here.
Yeah.
Conference home games, you have to bring the noise. You need to be on 6 or 7. And of course I'm exaggerating this, so Marky can get his numbers up a little bit. Postseason though, keep it to 4 or 5. You got to be locked in. You got to know what's going on. So the away viewing experiences though, if it's an away conference game, you better be watching that shit alone for the most part. You are locking into those games. That's your in and out, ups and downs. I don't want to be hearing from somebody who doesn't know Big East basketball.
I think there's a little bit of wiggle room. Like, I think if you have another obligation, like, I think if you have something else you can do if we play at Georgetown at 11 on a Saturday, I'm not going to sue you for it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, I think there's different tiers. Like, yeah, the Marquette games, like, are appointment viewing. Like, you got to be locked in. Like, if you're going to go to, like, a bar and have 6 games on for, like, the Georgetown game, I think that's fine.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Because I said away non-conference games. If you want to go to a bar and you want to have some chips and a beverage with your buddies, that's the time to do it. You're playing Florida A&M and you want to go out and hang out and say, or not Florida.
The program's gone off the rails.
Yeah, I think.
Game at Florida.
I think even the Oklahoma State game, you can go out and have a good time.
I think that's a good. I don't know what night it is. That's a great Buffalo Wild Wings game.
It's a Thursday.
That's
Thursday.
Bogo boneless.
I'm gonna probably go to Stillwater for that though.
Right.
That is my favorite non-top tier basketball arena.
Really?
I love the way it's built. I don't know why. I can't explain why. I have a vivid memory of watching a game there as a kid where it was like top 10 OK State against top 10 Kansas.
I was going to say, Marcus Smart beat the shit out of it.
Not quite. But yeah, I've got such a memory that I feel like I kind of got to make a pilgrimage there.
Okay.
And then postseason games. If you are watching a postseason game with anyone who is not in the trenches with you, you're not a real fan.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because you got to be willing to go through those ups and downs with somebody who deserves to go through
Does
them.
postseason count Big East tournament or not? Because I think
no.
Big East, like the Villanova game, I think is somewhat laid back.
So I mean, I'll admit to that. Like, I went to a bar for the Creighton Georgetown game. That seemed like something that was going to be.
Game?
Yeah, that seemed like something that was going to be like worth celebrating. You know, like you want to be around people when that game is played.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good to be in a place where there was a lot of alcohol available.
Yeah, that's true. No kidding. So yeah, that's my answer for that. For the playoff game, like the true like tournament games, you got to be with people who get it. I think.
Yeah. You got to be locked in or in person if you really care.
Yep. If you want to go have your heart broken and in person, that's always the best way to do it.
Yeah.
That we'll talk about this. I did not speak to my dad for 3 hours on the ride home from that game.
Yeah, I was no radio. It was just silence
Yeah.
until like 4 or 5 hours. And I think I've told you this story, but it's like I had a bag with all my drinks in it, and it was like mostly seltzers. and I forgot I had a whiskey bottle in there that I didn't even open. And so I opened my apartment door and just fucking threw the bag, forgetting I had a full whiskey bottle, and just shattered it. Girlfriend, none too impressed. So yeah, that was a good way to make a bad night worse. Then, like, fucking 2 weeks ago, I go to grab one of the cells. There's a shard of glass, and I sliced my finger on it. So, come on. Like, I was like, what the fuck did I cut myself on? And then I was like, thought for a minute, I was like, God damn it, I know exactly what I just cut myself on.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a bad drive.
There's Aztec revenge right there.
Yeah, that was a bad fucking drive.
That was brutal. Because I was going to fly out of Louisville the next day. I was going to stay the night there and leave the next morning. No, I got in the car and I got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, we gotta, I think eventually, like, down the road I want to do, like, a drunk pod that's just, like, an airing of grievances. Just, like, go on some rants and tangents. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I got some good ones, too. I still, and Mr. French will remember this game, too, like the Xavier game my freshman year.
Yes, it was before my time.
Yeah, they came in number 3 in the country, and we lose because they called a bullshit foul. Not the first, not the last.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, that one hurt. I went back and I put a big fucking hole in the Gallagher Hall neutral zone. That was there the day we left. So that was my contribution to Gallagher Hall. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
So we got one more mailbag question. Coach Ricky gave us a 2-parter. So he asked, and this is kind of interesting. So Nova is plus 600 to win the Big East and plus 800 to make the Final Four. Well, we are plus 300 to win the Big East and plus 800 to make the Final Four as well.
Really?
So if nothing else, that speaks to the variability of the postseason, where as long as you get in and you're, one of those top teams-ish, you can get there. Are you surprised the difference to win the conference is that significant?
No. Should it be? Probably also no. I mean, I think looking at the teams analytically, like, the teams are so far apart analytically, and granted this is a new team for Villanova this year, like, it's a lot of new guys. I think Creighton's more of a known commodity, where Nova, like, there's a way it goes bad. Like, the Pac-12 wasn't great. Like, Bamba put up good numbers on a bad team in the Pac-12. There's a way it goes bad. Like, I think kind of the consensus is Nova's a step below, in my eyes, Marquette and Creighton, and in a lot of people's eyes, you can throw UConn there as well. It seems fine. The both numbers seem about right to me.
Yeah. I don't know how ever sure you are of a team making the Final Four, right? So even if we get there and we are everything we think they're going to be, it's March. It's a crapshoot.
No, you can't. You can never be sure a team's like, I guess maybe 2015 Kentucky is like the only team, and maybe I guess even like the Gonzaga team 2 years ago that lost the championship. Like, I think 2015 Kentucky is like the only team I can remember in recent memory where I'm like, this team doesn't make the Final Four, I'll be stunned.
Right. Yeah, and so I'll end on this question then, because making a Final Four is so hard, but that's our bar now, right?
Yeah.
Is this the correct way to look at this season? We have to either win the regular season title, win the Big East tournament, or make the Final Four for this season to be considered a success.
Yes, and I'll go as far as to say that the Big East title alone does not count.
Which Big, like...
tournament, sorry.
The tournament?
Title,
okay.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, everyone goes back and forth, like, is it a tournament league where your tournament champion is your real champion?
No,
I always lean till no.
It's not. It's a double round robin. It's...
Yeah.
The best team is the team that finishes first.
Yes, agree completely. All right, so that's going to draw to an end a very long, but I think necessarily so, episode of Dennis and the Doc, our Big East preview. If you have more questions for us to answer on our next one, always feel free to drop either of us a reply, and we'll see you next time.
We're going national next time, right?
National will be our next one, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so if you've got anything for teams outside the Big East will be our focus point. That is coming your way next time.